Welcome to Astrology Land. My name is Michael Erlewine, and I've been studying and practicing astrology for something like 50 years now. In fact, here's a photo of the Heart Center Astrological Library, where I have been the curator for many years. This is probably the largest library of its kind in the world. In this series of short videos, I will present some key astrological concepts in what I hope for you is an easy-to-understand format. At the end of the video, I will point out where you can find many free ebooks on astrology, or even get a personal StarTypes report written by yours truly. Now let's get started. I became interested in astrology and all things spiritual sometime in the late 50s, but more so in the early 1960s. In 1968, I was doing a lot of astrology, including calculating the charts the old-fashioned way with log tables, pencil, and paper. I was doing it for my brother Stephen's metaphysical bookstore. It was called Circle Books, and I was teaching classes there. By 1972, I was a full-time astrologer, and so it went. Because I was the first astrologer to program home computers and share my programs with others, with the astrological community, I am known as a technical astrologer, although math was always my worst subject. But just for the record, it was always the spiritual side of astrology that interested me. The calculations were just a necessary hurdle I had to cross. You might keep in mind that back then, the late 60s and early 70s, the four-function calculator was not even on the market. I think it was the early 70s that it appeared so that you and I could buy one. And after that, gradually came programmable calculators and eventually home computers. By 1977, I was programming home computers, and I incorporated as Matrix software early in 1978. Matrix is still in business today. And according to an article for Red Herring magazine, our company is the second oldest software company still on the internet. The oldest being, of course, a little company called Microsoft. Anyway, in the course of my astrological studies, and in particular because I was asked to program about every possible astrological technique, I eventually stumbled on heliocentric astrology, which really did change my life. And because I champion heliocentric astrology, I, of course, am labeled as that heliocentric astrologer, even though I use the standard geocentric astrology chart like everyone else. Okay, let's talk about heliocentric astrology. I'll try to make it clear, but you're going to have to think about it, and so far I haven't seen in the course of 40 years much thinking about it. Let's just start here. The traditional chart that we all use, the geocentric natal chart, going back centuries and thousands of years actually in one form or another, is a snapshot. It's a chart of the Earth's position in the solar system well toward the center, in near the sun compared to Saturn, Neptune, or Pluto. It's a chart of the Earth's view of the solar system, what the Earth sees. Now, I always like to ask my fellow astrologers, what is it that the Earth sees? What is it a chart of? Well, most of them have never even thought about it, but the answer is it's a chart of the heliocentric solar system. The Earth is not the center of our system. We all know that. We don't really remember it. The sun is the center. So I would think that if the geocentric chart is all that interesting, it being a snapshot of the solar system, wouldn't you like to know a little bit more about the solar system itself, with the sun at the center? And that's what's called heliocentric astrology. Well, as I mentioned, I kind of stumbled on this. And I began to do heliocentric astrology just as I had been taught, and taught myself how to do geocentric astrology. You know, planets and signs, and so forth. But in the process of doing that, I began to discover there was another whole quality, a quality that I had never encountered in geocentric astrology, although I always tried to impute it. I tried to get out of the standard chart this deeper, more spiritual kind of information we find in heliocentric astrology. Now, to me, heliocentric astrology is like a chart not of your personality. That's your geocentric chart. Geocentric chart being a chart of the circumstances we find ourselves in, our particular personality, how we look, how we appear to others. But inside that personality is something. We in the history it's been called like individuality or the deeper self. You can use your own words, but what the heliocentric chart is really a chart of our dharma. And what's dharma? Dharma is the path to awakening. Our dharma path is how we become more aware of ourself and everything around us. So through the process of studying heliocentric astrology, I found out more about myself than I'd ever been able to find out through any other means. Now, what is this leading up to? This is leading up to trying to introduce you to the concept of what StarTypes astrology is. StarTypes are not just heliocentric astrology and not just geocentric. It's a combining the two. It's like taking traditional astrology that we've all grown up with and having another view. Just as the Earth views the solar system, and that's a geocentric chart, so the solar system itself has a chart. And the planets aren't in the same positions because the Earth sees the sun and the planets like through a glass darkly, from a perspective, a bias. It's the Earth's view. And of course, my fellow astrologers have loved to tell me for 40 years, we don't live on the sun. And I always respond, no, we don't. But we live from and off the sun, from its warmth, its light. And if we like to credit ourselves as having some sort of a spiritual center inside of us, how can we relegate that the sun to being just some kind of, using scientific terms, ball of hot gas? If we're spiritual, the sun shares in that spirit. We're the offspring of the sun, not vice versa. Anyway, I won't argue that. But StarTypes combines the greater, more inclusive view of the solar system with the standard geocentric chart. And it's kind of like, sometimes I tell myself, it's like a stereopticon, though. It's like a stereo view. Another way of saying, there's a wonderful song by a jazz singer that's called Compared to What? If we only use the geocentric chart, we have nothing to compare it to. Compared to what? Well, given the entrance of the helio chart, we have two charts, each different, but each triangulating and looking at the same thing but from a different view. It's like the old parable of the elephant, and somebody's grabbing the trunk and somebody a leg, and they all see things differently. These two charts combine to give us kind of a 3D view of ourself. And so in this series of videos, I'm going to try very hard to communicate the essence of what you can find out by using StarType astrology. I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll try it out. I'm not really so good at this, but I'm 70 years old, and it's kind of now or never. I don't know if anyone out there will get it or appreciate it, but if I'm going to do it, I think that I need to do it now. And so I hope that you'll bear with me. Thanks. Well, that completes one concept, something for you to think about. Now, where to go from here? For those of you interested in learning more, I can suggest several resources depending on your time and interest. First, I have a free ebook that I wrote on StarTypes that introduces these concepts. The book runs 753 pages and contains 230 full-color illustrations, done by me. It goes into great detail on star types and how to use them, and it can be downloaded as a PDF file for free here. Second, for those of you who are not comfortable with reading ebooks, most of my books are available in paperback format on Amazon.com, although of course they have to be purchased. You can find them by searching for Michael Erlewine or by title. And last but not least, for those of you who are not astrologers or don't have the time or interest in studying astrology, I've written several personal star type reports, readings based on your birth date and year. In putting these reports together, I've done exactly what I would do if you and I could sit down for an astrology reading and look at your chart together. And you don't need to know any astrology to read these reports. They contain no astrological jargon and are direct and to the point. Star type reports are about your personal star type and your particular life path or direction. And I've had a lot of fun designing a series of astrological image cards for each of the star types to make them easier to remember. These reports are available online instantly and can be purchased 24/7 in easy-to-read PDF format at this link.